And we are in what's called a bowl-shaped depression. In Kentucky, we call these sinkholes. And as you can probably tell by looking around here a little bit, this sinkhole water was about to here this past weekend. We had over 14 inches of rain in this area, and this sinkhole, all this was draining in, and it couldn't take it all in at one time, and this did fill up. We weren't able to run this tour for that last 3 or 4 days because of that. But what happens when it does rain is water goes down this sinkhole just like water down the drain. And as we go down these first 280 stairs, I think it's the best part of the trip. You're going to get dripped on a little bit, and you're going to see how the cave was formed and how it's still forming today. When we get to the bottom of the stairs, we'll be about 250 feet below the surface. We'll then walk through some dry cave, and then if everything goes as planned, about a mile over that ridge, we'll come out at a place called the Frozen Niagara, and that's where we're going to see all the pretty stuff. But at my first stop, I do plan to talk a little bit about the history of this cave. But y'all want to go see what he found? Yeah. Are you sure?
Yeah.
So, come on.
Okay.
Here we are. You want to hold on to the lamp?
Really is what?
Yeah. This is all from the cave, guys. This is all from the cave. Inside the cave.
There's a spider in that light.
Oh, you see a spider? Oh boy. See all the water?
Oh my god.
What do you think? It's water.
Hey, don't drink on. Oh my I'm going on this side.
Okay, don't scare me.
So which one of you is going to carry me out of here?
This is so cool.
I think so.
This is so cool.
There's over 160 species of animals in the cave. That includes your bats. In our lower river systems in the cave, there's fish and crayfish that live in those waters. But most of the animals are insects and microorganisms. Y'all may have already seen some cave crickets. And majority of the animals never leave the cave. And the ones that don't leave the cave, their life is in that darkness we experienced earlier. And most of those animals are eyeless. You know, the fish, I've heard people call them blind fish. They're not blind. They don't have eyes. But these fish, they have no eyes. And it's just because they live in that darkness. But most of them are insects and microorganisms that you see. Most are some tiny organisms.
Or those are chairs. Probably those are chairs.
Came to Kentucky from Ohio, and he came down here to drill oil. Now, the oil business didn't quite pan out for him, but he was a businessman trying to make a dollar. And while he was here, he had taken some cave tours over to Mammoth Cave. Where after taking those tours, he thinks to himself, this cave's a lot bigger and more extensive than what they're saying it is. And he thought if he could find another way into this thing, he could make him some money. So he took a lot of tours at Mammoth Cave, just took a map and survey where he thought the cave went in relation to the surface. In 1921, he found that big sinkhole we came in. That's a sign there's a cave. He noticed when it rained a whole lot, water disappeared into it. We saw that as we come downstairs today. That's a second sign. And then on hot days, there's cold air blowing out the rock. That's a third sign. So he purchased about 2,000 acres of land. That way, if he found anything, it would be under his property. So he got the help of his nephew Earl Morrison, Earl's friend Carl Nickerson. They got 12 rounds of dynamite, 100 feet of rope, and some oil lanterns. Now, folks, I have studied a lot of brave people in history. A lot of brave men I've studied in history. But I'm going to tell you, when it comes to bravery, none of them top George Morrison. Would you all like me to tell you how brave George was?
Yes.
Now that's where you say, how brave was he? Let's try this again. Would you all like me to tell you how brave George was? How brave was he? I'm going to tell you. He took that 12 rounds of dynamite. He blasted this big hole in the ground. He grabbed the rope and oil lanterns. He turned and handed them to Earl and Carl and said, boys, y'all go see down what's down that black hole there. I told you, brave man. But Earl and Carl had been in World War I. They's war buddies. And, you know, this was nothing to them. So they tied ropes around their waist and slowly lowered into the darkness. At one point, Earl yells back, it's still going. We need more rope. So they'd go to Cave City and get some more rope. About 2 weeks later, below the handrail over here, out of a little opening, Earl stuck his head up out of a hole and he saw this. And he goes back, Uncle George, I think you better get in here. I think we own to something. So they climbed up in here. They were able to go in behind us, over here to my right. And a few weeks later, Morrison starts running into cave he had seen before. He started running into tourist routes in Mammoth Cave. And that's when he found what he was looking for, which was a connection to Mammoth Cave. So he put in a rough set of wooden stairs and started to tour this as the new entrance to Mammoth Cave. Of course, Mammoth Cave sued him. But he was able to prove in court that he had found the connection, and they did allow him to continue to use the name. Now, in 1926, the state of Kentucky is making plans to make all this a national park. They want George's Cave, but he refused to sell it. But in 1931, what's going on in this country in 1931? Great Depression. George was noticing visitation dropping off, and he thought, I better sell this while I can. So he ended up and sold his section of cave for about $290,000. In today's money, that's about $4 million. And then we continued to use his wooden stairs up until the mid-1960s. The wooden stairs just got in bad shape that the Park Service deemed them unsafe. And that section of cave was closed off for tours until about 1984. That's how long it took us to find a contractor to put stairs in. There's a story that says that they hired a guy that had designed steps for submarines to help put those stairs in. And he was using those that make sense. He was using those tight spaces. And he gave us a sale price, folks, of $3,000 per step. I think that's a pretty good deal. Imagine what it would cost today. So a little bit of history about this part of the cave, and I'm going to talk about George more later on. But before we go, I'm going to give y'all some bragging rights right now. You are sitting in the longest cave in the world at 426 known miles. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to go home to your family and friends and brag and tell them that you was able to see and experience all 426 miles. But I need you to help me. If you can turn off them cell phones and cameras, anything that puts out light, if you can turn them off. If you got a watch that glows, hold it down. If even my kiddos got blinky shoes, sit still for just a few minutes.
That's not my microphone.
Grandmother, they'll be 98. Gosh, she hunted. One time that layer went all the way over there, and it just fell off. There it is. But when it fell off, it exposed another layer of the rock. And you can see back there it hadn't fallen off. That's why I stand up here. But that flat is just where a layer fell off. If that one fell off, there'd probably be another layer up above it. It's all natural, I promise. All this rock was up here at one time. There was water in passageways underneath us. And the buoyancy and pressure of that held up that rock. When the water left and things dried out, you had two things happening. You had passageways starting to collapse on top of other ones, and then you had all this rock fall, and that's what opened this room up. And this is called a canyon passageway. When we see the jagged walls and so on rock, Again, water was involved, but it wasn't running through here. Now, in a few minutes, we're going to go down this next hill. We're going to go in what's called a tubular passageway. You're going to see the walls and everything very smooth. That was filled with water. If you remember, we got to the bottom of all those stairs, you went through a passageway. Some of you had to probably bend down. If you remember, the walls were real smooth. That passageway, again, was filled with water. But now, coming down all them steps at the beginning, how many of you got dripped on? Me too. How many of you been dripped on since then? Yeah, if you have, we need to talk after this tour. You notice it's dry in here. And the reason for that, above us again, this is what kind of rock?
Limestone.
Yes, limestone. But on top of our limestone, we have a cap rock of sandstone and shale. That cap rock sits on top of the limestone. Right here, folks, is Godzilla's toes. Godzilla's toes. Yeah, remember Godzilla's toes. Rock that on. Up ahead in 1923, Earl and Carl and others found something. And when they found this, I guarantee they went back and Earl said, Uncle George, you better get back in this cave. You're not going to believe what we found. And when George Morrison saw this for the first time, that's when the dollar sign started to swim. He found something Mammoth Cave didn't have, and that's pretty stuff. Now up ahead, folks, what's going to happen, we're going to exit the cave today out the side of a ridge. And because of that, the cap rock didn't stretch that far. And because it's not there, the water was able to come in either slowly running or dripping. When we came down all the stairs at the beginning, did you all see any formations coming down them stairs? No. See, folks, what happened there, a sinkhole broke the cap rock. That water comes down too fast. But up ahead, because it's not there, the water's able to come in slowly. Now, when that water drips from the ceiling of the cave, there's limestone in that drip of water. Also, it's starting to lose the acidity that it got from the carbon dioxide, and that limestone starts to redeposit, and it creates what's called a stalactite, tight to the ceiling. Water drips off the stalactite to the floor of the cave. Again, limestone redeposits, builds up off the floor, and it's called a stalagmite. Might make it to the ceiling. That's the way I remember the difference between them. Now, sometimes a stalactite and stalagmite will connect and grow together. When they grow together, we call those a column. Now, there are people that like to call them pillars. But here in Kentucky, when we go to sleep at night, we lay our head down on a pillar. So we call it a column. Am I right, my Fulton County people? Yes, sir. Yeah, all right. But y'all call it whatever you want to. We'll see soda straws. Soda straws are the early forming of a stalactite. They're hollow inside. But as that water continues to drip and limestone redeposits, it'll turn into a stalactite eventually. We'll see cave bacon. Bacon is always on an incline, and that's where the limestone redeposited in layers. Some folks say it looks like bacon, others say it looks like rivets. We'll see draperies that hang like you see hanging in your homes. And then the crown jewel of what George found, the frozen Niagara. Frozen Niagara is a piece of flowstone, and flowstone's one of two things. It's where water slowly ran down a wall, or it ran over the edge of a rock, again redepositing limestone. Mr. Morrison thought this big piece of flowstone looked like a waterfall frozen in time. His visitors back then were mainly coming from up north around the New York area. So he thought if he named it after the Niagara Falls, the frozen Niagara, that would entice people to come see his cave. George was good at this. He knew how to get you here, knew how to market his product. And once he got you here, he's very good at getting another dollar or two out of you too. He was a true businessman. Now, some of the flowstone I think looks like melted wax running down the walls. Some of it looks like big layered cakes. So use your imagination. You can see lots of things. Now, when we get to this part of the cave, we're going to have a little optional side trip for you. We have 49 optional stairs that go down to a room called the drapery room. Now, these are optional. You don't have to do them if you don't want to. Stone and shell cap rock. We're still under it right here. And that, again, is what makes us the longest cave in the world. If we didn't have it, we'd be a bunch of the small caves, but they'd be more decorative. But this is the key to our cave system. But folks, at this time, on behalf of the National Park Service, Mammoth Cave National Park, my friends and partners, the double Emily's back there, myself, Ranger Eric, I want to thank you for letting us spend time with you today, wherever your travels take you. Y'all be safe.
All the ceiling has stalagmites. Has a name?
Shower bath spring.
Shower bath spring. Okay, thank you. Miren, ve. Wow.
Oh my God.
There is a tour that is an underground river, but it's called like the River 6 or something. It's 415 feet down. Oh, sorry.
Oh, there's a river there. I think there's a tour, right, that you can take a boat underneath, under there.
Not in Mammoth Cave, but
Oh.
in another one.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Oh, yeah.
First level for floating.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Crystal Lake.
Could have
Cave has been set. Now back up on the surface up north, the
Thank you.
glaciers are melting. They're bringing rivers down here. These rivers begin to find cracks and crevices in that limestone, maybe a sinkhole. And that water with the weak form of carbonic acid eats away at those cracks and crevices, and that water starts to come underground. Most of Mammoth Cave is simply a dried up underground riverbed. That's the easiest way I can describe it. Have a good evening. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Emma and I treated ourselves to some.
You can buy also passports here to stamp your to put your stamps, and the passport are like $15. And it tells you, this is an example, I think. Oh yes. See, it tells you a little bit about the story. You can do that.
It's been found in a nearby state.
This important answer. Here it is. I think this important answer is just around the corner. Oh, crickets and bats.